What is going on, squad? We have a request from Nav Singh. I'm really hoping I didn't butcher that name, okay? And he asked, how exactly can isometric training affect our grappling and wrestling arts? All right, now before I go into this, if you haven't seen the video on an Isochain routine for grappling, and here's a link right here, go ahead and check that out. It's a great video, and I broke down exactly why we want to perform certain overcoming isometric training exercises. If you are on the mat, it's really good stuff. But we're gonna break this down a little bit more. Now, grappling is very isometric in nature. You know what it really reminds us of? Dynamic tension, pitting muscles against each other, all right? So there's no movement, but there's definitely force being applied. So the only difference between Charles Atlas's dynamic tension and this and wrestling, grappling arts, is that it's someone else's forces, all right? So whose forces are going to win? Well, this definitely is going to benefit with overcoming isometric training. Now, I would absolutely include yielding in here. How long can your muscles last? Now, with the Isochain is a little different of a beast. If you don't have access to it, then I would just use an OG or a bulwarker or something and some yielding. If you have an Isochain, you have access to the hypertrophy via load mode and time mode. Like I said, Isochain is really just a tier above, okay? But I'm gonna go back to that. Let's just talk about if you have the bare bones minimum. Like you have an ISO flow, I have an ISO flow here. The bulwarker, I have that in the basement. And you just have straight up body weight yielding isometric training and or weight bearing yielding isometric training. When we're talking about grappling, without even talking about the muscle groups required yet, we're gonna get into that. You want to make sure that you have very high levels of muscular endurance. If you have a lot of power, that's great. You can pin your opponent onto the mat. But if you can only hold them for 2 seconds, what good is that gonna do? Now they're gonna flip you around and now you're screwed because your muscle endurance is crap. I can actually attest to that personally, all right? My personal strength is high, but the gas tank burns really quick. A nerdy video game example of this is when you're playing a Need for Speed game and you get your first nitrous in the game, right? When you hit the nitrous, you burn through it really quickly. You have to level up and upgrade your game in order for the nitrous to slowly go down and still get that insane boost. Nerdy example, but anyway, we're gonna go back to the endurance, right? So what do we wanna do? What do we wanna do? We wanna train our muscles to failure. Now, if you haven't seen the video on yielding isometric training and training to failure, can you get size on isometric training, yielding isometric training? Here's a link right here. Go ahead and check that out. Very good stuff, very informative. All right, so you want to take your muscles to failure. That is going to increase our muscular endurance. We need muscular endurance for this sport. We need muscular endurance for a lot of sports, but the difference with grappling is if your muscular endurance runs out first, you're done. You're not getting out of the bear hold. Khabib Nurmagomedov has you. You're done. He wrestles bears, okay? You don't want to be in that position. You want to make sure that they are the ones that gas out first. Feel me? So that is very important. But if your muscular endurance is great, it has a great baseline, all right, but you don't have amazing power to initially pin them down, then okay, it's part of the equation. Now, before we go into that part, the initial power surge, you might think if my time under tension, like if I can hold, let's just use this, if I can hold a 5-minute plank or a 5-minute wall sit, then isn't that going to translate into strength? Yes, it is, but it's not going to translate into the overwhelming power and speed that we need initially. You're just gonna have a nice baseline. Am I making sense here? If you don't understand or you have a question, go ahead and comment down below. But we need to have that power that overcoming isometric training is very, very good at producing in our body, all right? So the 6-second contractions that a lot of us see on the channel, especially the YouTube shorts on the NoLimitSquad channel, the 6-second contractions are absolutely insane and incredible at developing power in the body. At this point, we're coming up on almost 2 years of seeing evidence. Now, I have a couple of videos on before and afters and having people with a little bit of experience hop on Isochain and seeing their results after 30 days. But we're lacking, as of the recording of this video, we're lacking a really comprehensive one. So stay tuned for that. Oh, you can believe it's coming. Trust me, I'm a numbers guy myself, all right? You can talk, but we need to see the proof. Is the proof in the pudding, or are you just talking for YouTube watch time? I feel you. I'm you. So a nice 3x6 to 6x6 protocol for overcoming isometric training, in addition to the yielding, would be very, very helpful and powerful for a grappling practitioner. The exercises involved, now I'm gonna leave that up to that video that I alluded to earlier, what exercises and the whole routine for the grappling arts. You need to check out that video if you haven't seen it. I cover all the exercises and why you'd want to perform them in that video. The last little cherry on top for the grappling arts and the isometric training is your resting heart rate goes down. So it's interesting how this works, and I cover that in this video right here on cardio and isometric training. That's another good one, and I explain exactly why the resting heart rate goes down as a result of consistent isometric training, because it doesn't seem like it does, considering the blood vessels get constricted when there's no movement and the muscles are under load, right? So go ahead and check that video out. That's another good one. That's kind of dated now, so excuse the production quality. I was just first starting out with YouTube. But now your heart doesn't have to work as hard. All right. So while your opponent, if you've ever wrestled, you know how cardiovascularly taxing that sport is. Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, judo, all those types of the throws and anything that involves ground game is very cardiovascularly taxing. People are soaked when they finish a session on the mat. So it really is important to train the most important muscle in the human body, which is the heart. Have that in addition to the overcoming isometric training and the yielding isometric training. Man, you are set up to absolutely dominate, because I can tell you right now, while they might be dabbling in isometrics a little bit, I can bet that they're probably training mostly dynamic and utilizing other wrestling training techniques. But if they knew really about the power and all the exercise science behind isometrics and why it makes you so freaking powerful, they'd probably utilize a lot more. They more than likely would get an Isochain, that's for one. Not even talking about the Dragon, just period. But what are your thoughts? I want you to go ahead and comment down below. Are you a grappler? Do you already incorporate isometrics? Have you already seen noticeable results with them? Because if you've utilized isometric training after seeing some of our videos and you're a grappler, I can almost guarantee you've seen a difference. And if you have, I want you to comment down below and share it with us. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to drop a like, help us out. And if you're not yet part of the squad, hit that subscribe button. Come join the squad with us. See you next video. Peace.